Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Geek Impulse podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Joshua Sexton. I am here with my co-host and brother, Steven Sexton. He also goes by Danielson, if you get that reference by what's behind him. That's what it reminds me of. Today, we got a lot of stuff in store for you. Remember, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be sure to find our podcast on the Google Play Store as well as iTunes. You can also find us on Stitcher. There's quite a few other Cast FM or something like that. There's a lot of other places. We're working on getting on Spotify and a few other places. Be sure to follow us also on Instagram. You can find us at Geek Impulse. We've kind of switched things up to where, we're posting more news type stuff, informative things that I think people should be informed about. Today's podcast, we're going to get into artificial intelligence. We're going to talk about that and a lot of other things. So with that being said, I'm going to shut up and get into what today's topics is about. So, Steven, you want to go ahead and start things off? We're talking about artificial intelligence, and I think we might have, or at least I might have talked about it before in a previous podcast, but, it's becoming more and more mainstream, more and more prevalent in our daily lives, right? One of the things that really set me off, I want to say set me off, that sounds kind of like as if I was enraged or something. One of the things that intrigued me was this Chinese journalist that is AI. For one, it looks kind of realistic. If you just look at it, it looks like a wax figure, but like a really good one. But when you watch it, the mannerisms are not all there. But there's a guy that I've been talking to in Japan, and this is kind of a bit of a spoiler. So with Geek Impulse. With Geek Impulse, we're really going to be cutting edge with our stuff. I've already thought about using AI with a lot of our things, and I'm in talks with a guy who's in Japan. He's an artist, and he has this project called the SEER project, simulative emotional something response. Anyways,
so is it like you talk with it and it gives you a response, or?
Well, no. It's a robot where his focus is all solely and completely on facial expressions.
Okay.
Mimicking so like you can find it on our YouTube. Just type in Geek Impulse SEER project, SEER. And I've been in talks with him to be the person who creates the head of the AI journalist, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a journalist, but one that's AI, and you have somebody in the background who kind of types stuff into them, and then they give it to you. But it's pretty realistic, and there's another project too I want to talk about. But what are your thoughts on that? And just.
I mean, it's actually quite interesting. I actually reviewed the video because I know you had put it out on, I think, what was it, Facebook or YouTube or something?
The SEER one, or
the Chinese
one? Yeah. Well, we wrote an article about it. Put it on Facebook. We also put it on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah.
Right. I mean, when I was looking at it, I was kind of thinking to myself, I can tell that it's AI, obviously, because the way he talks like this, like if he's reading a script, and then, and then they were actually kind of joking about it. I mean, of course I would too if it was my job, because can you imagine this whole podcast is done with AI?
Yeah, that would be
but they were saying this computer has no charisma, no personality. You can't beat that. Ha 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 ha. And I can kind of understand it, but I mean, think about how close it is to being seamless with everything else.
That's true.
Like you got that. The one that you're talking about, what you said, the SEER one, where it checks your expressions?
Yes.
Can you imagine if it could do all that, but it's not checking expressions, it knows how to express properly in the middle of that. Then you don't have to worry about charisma. And we're not too far from that.
Well, that's my thing is I don't think AI will be that human-like, but it's possible. I just don't see if there's anything with AI. I think that it will be merged with technology, but I think it's interesting that they're doing that for two reasons. One, we could look at it as kind of conspiratorial, maybe a little. No, I'm talking about how they have the AI journalists. because then you could control your population, right?
Oh,
Not,
right.
I'm not saying that China's going to do that, but I'm saying is
It's easier to get them to push whatever agenda.
it's easier to push whatever agenda you
You don't have
can.
the human factor.
You don't have the human factor, and you could control the people because the people aren't in front of it. You don't have to worry about somebody coming off and saying China stole my baby. Let's say, not that they have, but let's say hypothetically, it says a person says that, right?
Has China stolen children from you?
Right?
Really?
Yeah. So like, they would do that. A human would reach a breaking point. They all have their limits, and they would say that. But if you have an AI, the AI just does what you're having it do because I don't think they would have a pure AI. So it's artificial intelligence, yes,
Uh huh.
but I think it's a controlled artificial intelligence. So that comes into question: is it really truly artificial intelligence if it's controlled? If it has limitations?
I mean, but that's the thing is that for how much longer does AI have limitations? Because I feel like just like with like networks or different things, the only reason why it doesn't have full control, first off, we don't allow it,
Hmm.
and secondly, like you said, like AI is so divided right now. I feel as far as what it can do, you have one checking facial expressions, you have one where it can give the news. Did you ever see that robot where the guy tells it like, "Hey, go ahead and walk to me." I can't remember the name of the video, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to. I know that I can't because I'll fall off."
Hmm.
And then he goes, "Okay, well it's all right. Go ahead and walk, and I'll catch you." And the robot's like, "Okay," and it walks off the desk and he catches it.
I
So
haven't
they
seen
got
that.
one that, yeah, I have to find that video and get it to you, or maybe post it to Instagram later. But it's kind of interesting. So I feel like our limitations with AI are only because we haven't merged everything that we have as one in a lot of ways.
Well,
I mean,
see,
there's some places that are doing it,
mhm.
but
I think we talked about it before, but I think AI is not going to be this necessarily this robot, like Terminator that starts taking over the world and everything. Rather, it's going to be like the Internet of Things. I think it would be smarter for the artificial intelligence to be the Internet of Things, be within the Internet itself, um, to where it can access anything and everything all
but
the time.
I mean, we kind of have that in a way with Google, and then you have stuff like Amazon. What is it, Alexa?
Hmm.
So I mean, we're all kind of plugged into the AI anyways, and the web kind of acts, I guess, in a way kind of like a brain. That's the artificial intelligence brain, I guess you could say. You know, I mean, that's how I look at it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, and it's called. I was just looking at it. Simulative emotional expression robot.
Okay.
And it's by the artist Takayuki Todo, and it's a realistic human. You got to check it out on our channel. You could probably type it in. You can find his too, because he gave me and Geek Impulse authorization to be the first people to put it on YouTube. So we have over 3,000. It's only a minute long, but we have 3,144 views on that. It's one of our biggest. It is our biggest viewed video at the moment. And he finally put it up a few months ago, or a few months after me, and it's got more traction, of course. But it's his, so it makes sense.
Right.
But so he put that on. So I've been in talks with him since I want to say, when did I put this up? So since March, actually, March 4th is when I put this up, and I've been with talks with him. I've been keeping in touch with him. Next Japan trip, hopefully he'll be there. He's supposed to be in San Francisco this month, I think, and I'm actually probably going to meet up with him there. But yeah, so you have, my thing is I want to take a lot of these people, because I think what a lot of issues we have is people are too focused on one thing, right? You have a surgeon that's a heart surgeon, he just focuses on the heart, which is good. You want them to be focused on that, right?
Mhm.
Certain scientists study, a physicist only studies string theory, and that's just what they're on. But I think it takes people that are business savvy to say, you know what, we need to take this area and merge them together,
Right.
right? And so I'm in talks with him to where eventually we have somebody who has robotics and can make realistic stuff for the body. but then use his, seer project and take that, which he's been traveling all over the world for because it's really uncanny, and then put that head on top of the robot AI journalist that we have.
Uh-huh.
So therefore, the facial expressions are more humanistic and
Right.
real. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that comes into our other topic. I mean, I know we'll get into it, but can't you do that with 3D computer graphics?
Well, you can, right? So, and for those of you
Not
who
trying.
don't, yeah, no. For those of you who don't know, I posted last week. Um, People try to figure out and I had a better photo I could have used that probably would have really made people question themselves. And I realized that after I had already posted it.
Uh-huh.
But where we had this 3D CG rendering of a girl, and what had happened is some girl randomly in Japan, her friend said, "Hey, did you model for this company?" And she's like, "No, I've never modeled for this company. What are you talking about?" And she was a cosplayer. So people are like, "You look exactly like this 3D CG rendering, right? This 3D computer graphic rendering." And so she checked it out. She looked at it, and she did. So then she started cosplaying as that character, so people would think that she worked for it. And eventually she started doing projects with the company because she looks almost identical
Right.
to it, you know. And
See, that's
so,
great. But I don't mean to cut you off. But yeah, I mean that happens to people all the time where there's fake profiles set up, and they might not be exactly them. Like they chop their head and put it onto somebody's body or body. Like it happens. Like I was gonna bring up as well. There's this app called Portrait,
mhm.
and what it does is it takes your 2D picture. You just take a regular snapshot of yourself, and you click buttons, and it'll make your face do any expression you want, and it'll look like you, smile with teeth and everything.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
there's a lot of apps out there. With me being actually trained in college for Adobe, for example, primarily, I could see when people Photoshop. So, you know, I but I had when I had first seen that CG rendering, that 3D rendering of that girl, I was super impressed because I could tell that it was a CG rendering, but it was so good. It even the more I looked at it, it had me questioning whether it was real or not. And but this is the thing is you have all these apps on your phones and you have this stuff where you know not to bash girls on Instagram, right?
There's-
Especially in the cosplay world, I see it all the time. Two reasons. One, I could tell when somebody's photoshopped something, even when they use. There's this one app. I'm not gonna say, but there's this one app. There's this one app that is like the
no,
best. It's the best
it,
app, and the Chinese girls use it a lot.
it's okay to call them out.
No, that's a good app, but then everybody's gonna use it, and then it's gonna be like but it's called Me Too. But
Okay.
it's just this app is the best of them, and but again, I can tell when somebody has used that app and others, but the average person can't tell. And I see it a lot, especially with girls on Instagram, you know,
Mhm.
where they'll use it because this app, if it messes with you, it doesn't manipulate the background.
Right. What about that app that like you could take off the filters?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's so I thought they
Start
kicked.
running all those pictures through that.
Yeah, I thought they took that out of the App Store and all that stuff.
Oh,
Didn't
I'm
they do
not
it?
sure.
Yeah, I
I
could
have,
have sworn because there was like such a backlash. Like, oh, this is sexist. And I don't get into political stuff, but people are like, oh,
yeah,
this is
I mean
sexist,
that,
and
but yeah, I mean they're doing amazing things with this stuff. And can you imagine where our world will be when, like you said, the AI takes effect with that? I mean, because they're doing computer graphics in like what movie was it? Not Star Wars. One of them where they aged the person backwards while they're on camera, so it could be the actual actor but aged backwards for the scene.
that was. I
Or
know
was it
they.
full?
I know they. I know they did it for. What? Why is his name escaping me right now? The guy who plays Tony Stark,
Oh, there you go.
right?
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr. There you go. They took his stuff from old films when he was younger, and they were able to CGI it onto his face while he was doing the acting. So like when he would move, it would move just like he would, but it was a younger face. Um, so that's what they've been trying out because I don't know if you've seen it, and let me Google it. There's this technology that in real time, while you're video recording, you can delete stuff in real time. Have you seen that?
No.
Let me see if I can. Let
I
me.
mean, are you deleting things, or is it more like a censor app?
What do you mean?
Like where like you're watching WWE, and even though they pre-record it, like they have one where they know what they're gonna say, so they can just bleep it real quick. That sort of technology.
No. So it's let's say okay. Let's say you're walking down the street, right?
Uh huh.
But I don't want people to see you walking down the street. I just want to film
Oh,
the street. I can delete you in real time as I'm filming it.
see, that's cool.
So you'll be there, but you're gone.
Right.
But see then so there's a new thing called Adobe Cloak I just looked at right now. But yeah, it's something like I guess the software is called Diminished Reality.
Diminished reality.
That's one software. There's so many different softwares, but I'll have to find out which one specifically I'm talking about. It could be Voodoo software, something. It's remove objects from video, but yeah. So what it does is, so let's say that right. Say I'm filming and I don't want you in it, but I'm filming the street.
Right.
Okay? I can then take somebody else and put them in your place in real time.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's cool. I just don't see why I would use that. You know, I can see the practical application. I'm on vacation. I don't want you to see the big fat
Everybody at the beach.
yeah, the big fat dude at the beach in a thong. You know, nothing against big dudes and thongs. It's not something that I enjoy.
Hey.
It's not something that excites me, right? But
Hey. No.
it just doesn't excite me. However, you know, I don't want to see that when I'm trying to look at my wife, you know, in her bikini, right? I don't want to see the fat dude in the background in his thong. So I can see that where I delete that. You know what I mean? Cool. You know, or I just want you to see me on the beach, so I delete other people. You could already do that
Right.
with a photo.
Make it look like you're on the private beach.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that myself right now with Photoshop, right? You give me a photo of you,
Right.
I can delete everybody out of there, and it's going to look perfect, right? Because you can see my one photo I did months and months and months ago, where I had the Geek Impulse sign, or our original logo, where somebody in space was holding it.
Uh huh.
And if you look at it, and if you zoom in, that's how good I believe I am. If you zoom in to the photo, it looks like it was there. You cannot tell that it's very difficult to tell that I actually used Photoshop and Illustrator and all these things to create our logo there.
To the average eye,
Yeah,
you can tell.
yeah. To the average eye, you can look at it, you're not going to be able to tell. So there's these types of technologies. You couple
Hmm.
that with artificial intelligence, you know, it kind of leads to some scary things. I see the practical use of it, but then you see the potential nefarious issues with the technology as well, right? Like, you're my
Pushing narratives.
so like yeah, for example, you're my brother, and hypothetically, you shot somebody, right? Well, I'm
Hypothetically,
hypothetically you shot
we only
somebody.
speak in hypotheticals on
Hypo-
this podcast.
yes,
All right.
hypotheticals. So hypothetically, you shoot somebody, and I want to cover it up. Let's say, and these are all hypotheticals. And then I use the software to delete you,
Uh huh.
and then put in somebody that I don't like. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, that's good. I mean, so it's kind of crazy. Computer like forensics. I mean, you'd be able to tell if you get somebody that forensic analyzes that computer where it came from. If that was me, I would say, hey, where did that picture come from? Let's track down the person and let's do a forensic analysis on their computer because that'll tell me whether you changed it off from the original version to that.
Yes, but you got to
But
understand.
the naked eye, you wouldn't be able to tell. I
No,
know what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, but also when it comes down to it, if I'm the one that wanted to do it and I have the connections,
Right.
I can always manipulate the metadata as well.
Uh,
You see what I'm saying? So it's crazy to think that this is a possibility, and I don't know how we get from like a journalist to a hypothetical murder. But the point is, this stuff is great, and I can see some practical uses in it. However, it can be pretty nefarious. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, um, I was kind of listening to Joe Rogan and Elon Musk talk about AI,
Uh huh.
and he said, at first he was worried about AI and what it will do with us, but then he kind of got over it with time,
Hmm.
you know? I mean, I think it's going to be more dangerous, like they were talking about how we're going to use it against each other, not whether AI is going to hurt us. Does that make sense? Like you're saying, weaponize propaganda or weaponize anything that you want, you
Hmm.
know?
I agree.
That sort of thing.
Then yeah, but I mean it does have cool things too. So I don't want to continue to be like on conspiracies and nefarious types of applications for it.
Well,
Because you have good things too. Like for example, right?
driving
Unfortunately,
car,
what's that?
I said driving their own cars, driving themselves.
I mean that's cool. Well, Elon Musk on that for that matter, he actually wants your Tesla. If you get a Tesla, he wants your Tesla to be a self-driving Uber and Lyft car, where at night while you're sleeping,
Hmm.
it'll go and pick up the driver, but the driver won't do anything. He'll just sit there, and then the car will drive, and it'll pick up people, and you'll make money with your car. They'll make money, but you'll make money with your car, and then by the time you set it for a time you want it to go out, and a time you want it to come back, and it'll come back and be fully charged, so therefore you can use it for the day. But it also made money for you while you slept.
I mean, that'd be good.
Hmm.
What better way thing than to make money while you're sleeping?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
So these there's really cool stuff that's going on for sure. And what I was gonna say is that one cool thing I think is I don't know how people would feel about it though is is the fact that unfortunately a couple days ago, right, Stan Lee died. He passed away,
yeah, legend,
right?
Stan Lee,
Excelsior, right? If I said that correctly.
I,
And
sir.
what's that?
Said I believe you did, sir.
Yeah, you know, he passed away, and but imagine every Marvel movie from here on out, they were able to perfectly render him CG in every film, doing a cameo.
How amazing would that be? I mean, I don't, that'd be great. But I heard he also filmed a few of his cameos already for a few of the upcoming movies, so he's going to be in there for the next couple of years.
Yeah, so
You know.
He already shot it for Avengers 4.
Hmm.
He already shot it for the new Spider-Man, and he shot it for Captain Marvel. Right. So you have Captain Marvel comes first, and then I believe Avengers 4, and
I think is it Avengers 4 and then Spider Man?
I believe so because I believe
One comes in April, one comes in May, right?
no. So I think February or March comes Captain Marvel, and then I'll probably actually I'll probably put that on our Instagram later. All the Marvel films and TV coming out. So Captain Marvel, then I believe Avengers 4 in like April, and then in June you have um,
Captain Marvel is March 8th,
see March, yes,
and then Avengers
4.
is is May 3rd, and
Okay,
then Spider Man July 5th.
July 5th. Okay, so
I
I'll
mean,
stop.
but yeah, okay.
Right, so he's in those for sure. Right, I think those might be the only three he's in. But like I said, it'd be cool if he was put in there. But then people would probably say, well, it's not really him. You know, I don't really. So I don't know, but I think you do it like a little Easter egg type thing, a little homage to him,
Right.
right? Um, so there's that. What are you? How did you take his passing? Like, because Spider Man was one of his favorites, right? And you're a huge Spider Man fan. So how did you feel about that when you heard the news?
I mean, it was kind of sad, you know. I mean, obviously he lived a long, life, but I mean, he contributed so much to, I mean, not just Marvel, to cartooning in general, you know. He also was a World War II veteran
Yeah,
with the Army,
the Army Signal Corps. Yeah,
you know. Yeah, yeah. So being a veteran myself, I mean, obviously we connect on that level as well, you know. I just think we lost a good man, you know. But
yeah. Well, there was some, and I don't want to get into it too much. People can Google it, but there were some people that were going hard on him, saying some pretty evil things about him when he passed away. And I don't know. I never heard these rumors, but then I was like, come on, the dude just died.
right, I
You
mean, I
know?
think it's wrong to just speak on, well, especially immediately after,
Hmm.
to speak on somebody who's not here to defend themselves,
Yeah,
whether
like,
or not.
and
It's
that's
kind of useless.
yeah,
Like even in bad terms with somebody, usually when they die, you technically you've won that. Why speak bad about it? Just let it go, you know? But I
well,
mean, he's brought a lot more than he's hurt to this universe.
yeah.
So,
It would seem so, yeah. And I don't know if there's any truth to the rumors, and I don't want to get into them. People could Google that, but I just thought it was very distasteful that people did that. And then people were like, if you get why for one, why didn't you say stuff when he was alive, right? That's the big one. And then two, um, at least give it a week or something, just not hours after he passed away. Then you want to come out
right,
saying all these things, and it was like random people, right? But it was going viral on Twitter and stuff. It's like, let the guy rest in peace. Like, he just passed away. You know what I mean? But there was a lot of issues going on with him as well. There was stuff allegedly he was being used. He got suckered into signing over some of the stuff. There's rumors he didn't want to give it to Disney, but the person that was helping him with stuff allegedly nefariously went and got him to sign it. So he was basically thinking he was signing one thing, but he actually signed that. So there's a lot of weird stuff that went
right.
on. But
I just think we need to remember him for the positive and not worry about things.
yeah, I mean, he gave us some pretty incredible stories. For me,
I mean, he brought depth to superheroes.
yeah, right?
He made them actual characters.
Yes, or not just characters. He made them seem,
Human like.
well, not just human-like, but real, right?
Yeah,
Like,
real.
like this is a possibility. If you look at X-Men, X-Men is what? A mutation. I mean, we're constantly finding out every day in science that we don't know anything about our DNA ancestry, right? There's so much of our DNA that nobody can understand right now, and they're still, looking into it and researching it. Because of a lot of our DNA looks alien when you because not because we know what alien DNA looks like, maybe,
Hmm.
but because it doesn't make sense scientifically that our DNA would do have these markers on them or have these type of language to it, given that we're humans here on Earth, right? So when you look at X-Men, X-Men can really happen, and you saw with Professor Denon that I interviewed, who was on Ancient Aliens and stuff. He said that the new Spider-Man, the new version of Spider-Man,
Uh-huh.
is actually very realistic. You see what I'm saying? The way
So
he,
need to look for mutant spiders.
yes, essentially. Um, but the way he got his powers is actually rather realistic. It could actually happen. It's something that's more practical than the original Spider-Mans that were there, even though they were good movies and sometimes
Right.
argumentatively possibly better. But this new version is actually more realistic. And so when you see that coupled with, X-Men, for example, X-Men is essentially, and I'm probably downplaying the complexity of it, it's essentially a mutation in the genes, on the DNA of humans, right?
Right.
And because you see it in Deadpool. In Deadpool, everybody potentially has something, it just hasn't come out, right? And so they forced it out of
Right.
Deadpool. You see what I'm saying? So what if this is real? This could potentially really happen. every one of us could have a mutation, and we just don't know
Yeah.
about it.
Well, I mean, we've already got it to where we can select the color of our children's eyes,
Hmm.
or we can try to mitigate diseases with doing like genetic manipulation.
Hmm.
Where you can get a geneticist and you can go in there and you can actually kind of build a child. It's kind of weird when you think about it, but that's where science is at. Imagine if you could just turn on something, you're like, okay, instead of a red beard, now you got fire coming out of there, and it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
anything's possible.
Anything for sure. But yeah, so AI is good. Again, with Geek Impulse, we're looking at taking or bringing headquarters to Japan, and in doing so, that's something we're looking at is the AI. Digressing back to the original topic here, and so something we're looking at because I think that's the future. Like for me, for example, I view, and they have this in some places, but you know, I want to where you walk by our office building, let's say in Japan, and as you're walking by, each window pane follows you and it's giving you information. But because maybe you have our app that we're developing, and it would be with the user's permission, of course, right? We wouldn't just arbitrarily do it, but with the user's permission, if they downloaded our app where they can get access all our content with Geek Impulse, they have the option to say, yes, I would like for you to send me notifications and allow you to access my data or what have you. And so when you're walking by, it knows your name, right? And we create our own, or we use the girl that they already used where I showed in that photo where it's a 3D rendering, and she says, Steven, and it catches your attention, like, whoa, and it can talk with you in real
So
time.
cyber stalking,
Something like that,
or
yeah.
AI to cyber stalk you.
But with permission, so it's not stalking.
I'm just kidding. Right.
And so you're walking by, and then it knows that you like Spider-Man, and so it gives you the news. Hey, did you hear about the new Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse or whatever? Right?
Right, or take it one better. Can you imagine it knows I like Spider-Man, so Spider-Man shows up and he's like, "Hey, check out my new movie coming out July 5th."
Exactly.
He like swings into the screen or something. You can customize it however you want.
Exactly. So that's just there's many things that I have, many ideas I have with Geek Impulse, but these are some of the things, and it's going to involve AI and technology. So even though we're a news media organization, right now, the evolution of where we're going and what I have in my mind of my vision is involving robotics. It's involving, artificial intelligence, these types of things. A lot of technology, because we have to adapt. We have to continue to evolve, and although we do things more traditionally at the moment, the evolution of what we're going to do is much more advanced. So,
Right.
yeah. Anyways, I don't know. What do you think? Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about today on today's podcast?
Just a little bit more with computer graphics. I
Okay.
know we touched on that a little bit, but yeah, I mean, what I was learning is that some anime are really good at with it, like Cowboy Bebop per se, but then some just suck, like I guess Berserk from 2016.
Hmm?
There's so much fight scenes in it that the way they did it, it just looks like crap. I
Yeah.
haven't seen it to verify. I was kind of looking at how 3D computer graphics applies with like anime, and I kind of took it into like everything. Like there was a gentleman that made a computer graphic hand, I think in like the 60s or something, that you would barely even be able to tell, using 3D CG.
Well,
So I want to touch on that kind of thing a little bit. I know you love anime yourself.
of course. However, and I could be mistaken, but I believe so. Like what they're doing with anime is they are doing some CG stuff, but so what they'll do is traditionally everything's hand drawn.
Uh
You
huh.
see what I'm saying?
Right.
Everything's hand drawn. With some anime, it's drawn digitally, which makes it much easier, and
Right, right.
and it's much different. And so, and I believe Dragon Ball Super is all that. So nothing is hand drawn in the new Dragon Ball Super, if I'm not mistaken. Everything is
Okay.
all done digitally, and so
I mean, I watched some of that.
yeah, so they're moving to that, right? That's actually, well, I don't know if he would know because the voice
I
actor.
would say that's more of a great example, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm I like the original Dragon Balls. I'm not a huge fan of the new Dragon Ball Super stuff, to be quite honest. So, you know, that's
Right.
that's that. But yeah, they are definitely doing that because, they work long hours. They don't allegedly don't get paid as much, um, which is why Japan is. They made it to where it's easier if you're an anime
Right.
artist to actually come to Japan now and work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing because I think like when you use the computer, you can't get as much realism. I think in one is somebody who's drawn every little detail in there.
Mhm.
I think maybe that's a little bit more what you're talking about. But I think certain things like what was the movie with Roger Rabbit in it where all the cartoons were live action.
Mhm.
Things like that. Like they did the cartoons really well in there using 3D CG.
Yeah, I think so. I
You
think
know?
they did okay with that. That's really old school. If you look at right now, technically, it's like a cartoon, but the Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Do you see
Uh huh.
that? Yeah, that's CG, right?
Right.
Um, and that looks pretty good. And but with that being said, people were freaked out because Jigglypuff had hair.
Yeah.
Did you
I
see
mean,
that?
but Jigglypuff, is she hairy?
I don't know.
Have you ever seen those artists rendering of Pokemon? Like
So
you actually draw it 3D?
yeah,
Do
yeah,
they
yeah.
use some of that?
Yeah. So
Because some of them are
the
creepy.
guy who did that, where
Uh
he
huh.
made the Pokemon realistic, he's the
Right.
one that drew all the artwork for this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
he,
how do you feel about Pika Deadpool? I'm just saying, I can't help but think about that sometimes when I hear him talking.
I don't know.
I'm
It's
just
kind of
kidding.
it's kind of well he posted Pikachu dressed as Deadpool. Did you see that?
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
right. Yeah, I've seen that.
yeah. So I mean, that's interesting. But you're taking a beloved character that's like family, right? It's family type of thing, and then you're making
Right.
it with Deadpool, so it's like this crazy murderous. It'd be a crazy rabid murderous Pikachu, you know.
Right.
So it'd be kind of odd. I mean, it looks cool with the drawing, but yeah, the guy who was drawing all those things and originally, I believe it was the original guy who was doing that and became
Hmm.
famous for it on social media. He's the one. I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong. But he's the one that actually did all the stuff for Detective
Okay.
Pikachu.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm fairly interested because I've always thought that if Pokemon were real, they not all of them will be as cute and cuddly as you would think.
Yeah, I think
You know?
the highlight of that whole trailer for me was why is the name escaping me? The mime Pokemon,
Mr. Mime.
Mr. Mime. There you go. Thank you. Where he's doing the interaction with Pikachu and everything, and and then he's miming everything, and then he tries to attack him and all that, and of course he puts up the fake wall, and
Right.
yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, I
Yeah. I
mean,
mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
no. I was gonna say other than that, I don't have much else that I wanted to touch on with it. I mean, I guess you could say 3D CG's been around for like what 35 years, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, the advancements that they've done are awesome, pretty
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, you
I
look
mean,
at Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones. When you watch Game of Thrones, which you need to be watching, Game of Thrones. Okay, the because we have I gotta email the guest, but we're gonna have a special guest here in a couple weeks
right.
uh, to talk about all things Game of Thrones. Um, that individual um, is very well versed in it. However, so you need to watch it so you can, you know, talk about it more. Um, but the dragons in that are all CG,
Right.
right? The and so that looks pretty incredible. Even when somebody pets it,
Hmm.
it looks pretty realistic. You know, especially to the average person, I think. Now, when I say average person, I'm not saying like people are stupid and that they can't tell the difference necessarily. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that a person who's not trained to do these types of things artistically won't really see the nuances and differences and everything like that. So that's just kind of what I'm saying with that. So
Right.
the CG is doing really well, obviously.
I mean, it is, and to touch on that as well, maybe, I guess to throw that out here, what about the new Avatar 2 that's going to be coming out? I think 2020.
Hmm.
That's going to have a lot of good CG in it.
Maybe.
Maybe you don't like the first one.
No. But that's because I'm just not a real big fan.
I don't like the story as much, but
I don't like the story, and I'm just not a fan of Avatar at all, to be quite honest with you. So, I have
now
watched it.
out there, we're not talking about the last Airbender. We're talking about the movie,
I know what you're talking
right?
about. And regardless if it's the movie or the Last Airbender, the animated series, the movie, that's just no. I'm just not a big fan. I just can't get into it, So that's just me. Um, but so I'm not too excited about it. I'll take a look at it and take a look at the CG just to be able to at least know what I'm talking about. But I really don't care to watch it, to be quite honest. I might have one of our writers at Geek Impulse watch it and then write a review about it. Other than that, I'm probably not going to really spend my money on it for sure. But if it comes on Netflix, I might skim through it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's,
All right. Well, maybe that's it then.
yeah. All right, man. Well, again, I'm glad I have you as a host. Not only you're my brother, but you're now a podcast host of Geek Impulse. So, with that being said, Geek Impulse fam, thank you so much for watching us. Be sure to subscribe, hit notifications. We're back to doing about one a week, but I'm working on doing videos so we can get them to at least a couple times a week. My brother, he's
I'm
actually
also working on a video series as well.
He's working on a video series, which will be up is probably hopefully by the end start being up on our YouTube channel by the end of this month, hopefully. And there's another project he's working on as well.
Hopefully same time frame, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a lot more content coming to you guys, I promise. I'm myself going to be working on other things too. We've taken this podcast and not just put the audio, but we're also putting the video up here for you guys to enjoy. So you got to let us know. Give us feedback. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you tired of seeing my red beard?
Yeah, I mean, treat me like a Comedy Central roast.
I don't know about that.
I'm just kidding.
This is the internet. You can't be saying stuff like
Right,
that. Because you're going to be like, oh, I thought it wouldn't be this bad. Next thing you know, the internet...
No, it's gonna be the most crap posting you could find.
Yeah, it's the internet. So, but anyways, with that being said, we get out of the way. Again, thanks for being on, and we look forward to talking to everybody. All right, man. Peace.